255 people in the live Zoom call right now, and thousands more listening on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and other places. If you're listening to this call, welcome to this call. We do this every single week. We started with a small group of 6 or 7 of us, and last week we had over 600 people live here on the Zoom, and I think like 10,000 viewers on the different Restream apps. So this is growing. This is growing, and we're glad that you're taking note. I have a question as we get started. How many of you have been here before? All right. If you've been here before, if you've been on one of these calls before and you like coming back to these calls, and so you're back, would you put maybe something in the chat? Let's put the word lifer. If you're a lifer, if you're just here every week and you like coming to these calls, or if you've been to multiple calls, put lifer in the chat. Okay, look at that. Holy cow, we got a lot of lifers. Lifer. Okay, this is awesome. If you're new, if this is your very first call, maybe you've never been on one of these calls before, somebody invited you, you're a little unsure, you're not sure what we're about to do, if we're going to, try to indoctrinate you politically or indoctrinate you otherwise, don't worry about any of that. If you're new, put new in the chat. Put new in the chat. New. Okay, great. We've got a lot of new people here. So it's very helpful to me to know kind of what the audience makeup here. We've got a lot of lifers, but we do have some new people as well. So for the new people, maybe what I'll do briefly is I'm just going to introduce myself as we kick off this call to let you know what these calls are about and why they are so very, very important. So I'm going to share my screen here just for a moment and just introduce myself. And then we'll get started. I've got some guests here that I'm anxious to get to. But so this is me. My name's Trent. This is my beautiful wife, Denise, and our 3 little girls. We live in Utah, and this is my family. This is my world, kind of my everything right here in this photo, right? I love my family, and I was raised by a wonderful father. This is my dad. Just an amazing guy. I have great parents, and this is my dad. And 8 years ago, my wonderful dad died from stage 4 colon cancer. He was my hero, somebody I look up to and admire and want to be just like. My dad really, really struggled with his diet throughout most of his adult life. He struggled with prediabetes. He was insulin resistant. He had high blood pressure, high cholesterol. He had psoriasis, which is a very serious skin condition that covered him from wrist to ankle. And it was very, very challenging for him. My dad was on lots of different drugs to try to manage the symptoms of his health problems. And one of the symptoms of some of the biologics he was taking for his psoriasis was colon cancer. And my dad got colon cancer and died. And when my dad got sick, I just freaked out, right? I started to study and read everything that I could get my hands on to maybe try and just save, if possible, my dying father. And who am I to save my dying father? I mean, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical professional. I'm just a really, I'm just his kid, right? I'm his son. But I learned a lot. And I had my eyes opened to many things that probably would have kept my dad alive for another 40 or 50 years. 40 years, I should say. I don't think he would have lived past like 110, but not many do. So I started making content teaching people about something called insulin resistance. Now, if you do not know what the term insulin resistance means, we're going to talk about that a little bit tonight. We now know that this problem of insulin resistance is the root cause of many other major metabolic health problems, whether it's weight control problems or fatty liver or diabetes especially. I mean, diabetes is like insulin resistance squared. Alzheimer's, dementia, things like migraine headaches, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, PCOS for women. A lot of the major metabolic health problems are really focused around this one problem, either directly or indirectly caused by this insulin resistance. And did you know that when you solve this problem of insulin resistance, when you solve this problem, you often solve a lot of other problems for people? Wouldn't that be wonderful? What if by fixing one problem right here in the middle, we could solve a bunch of other problems for people. Now, for those of you that are lifers on this live Zoom call right now, there's over 400 people now just here on the live Zoom. If you're a lifer and you have had one or more of these problems, right? If you've had one or more of these problems solved on this protocol that we're about to talk about, will you put me in the chat? Will you put the word me in the chat? I want people to see what is happening and why we do these calls. Okay. Me. I mean, we will probably have at least 100 plus people, maybe more like 200, that are writing me right now in the chat. I mean, it's going faster than I can keep up with it. Okay. So we want to talk to you about some very natural things that you can do, very simple things, two little things really. A little bit of fasting, taking short breaks from food. I'm not talking about anything extreme, but taking short breaks from food, also known as fasting. So a little bit of fasting and a little bit of the right types of fiber. A little bit of fasting, a little bit of fiber. What if just by adding some fasting and some fiber to your daily regime, daily routine, what if that's all it took to solve some really big problems for you, to maybe even change your life? I mean, what if you could solve your health problems with a little bit of fasting and fiber? I mean, that might sound almost too good to be true, right? But look at the chat. Look at those me's. Look at how many people this is working for. So we want to get in to how to use fasting and fiber to really, really change, dramatically change your metabolic health. Going to get into that. But that was really to set the table for what we're going to be talking about. We're going to tell you about a really simple protocol you can follow. And guess what? You could actually do it for free. I mean, fasting is free, right? More fiber, you can get that at the grocery store. And there are some things that you can buy that from, you can buy them online, for example, that will make life much, much easier, make this very convenient. So for the people that are interested, we could talk about some of those as well. But fasting and fiber are natural. Fasting and fiber, are things that can dramatically improve somebody's metabolic health. So we're going to talk about that. But before we do, we're going to start by bringing in just a quick little case study here. This is a wonderful guy, and we always like to start our call with a testimonial. So this is a wonderful, wonderful guy named Gavin Turfler. Gavin is a relative stranger to me. Now, we have met before. Have we met once before?
We have met once before in Vegas.
All right, yeah, I met Gavin in person in at an event that we had, and he was on the protocol and came to the event, and I was very impressed. So, Gavin, if you wouldn't mind, maybe start by just telling everybody who are you and where are you from?
Yeah, so my name's Gavin Turfler. I'm 22 years old and I live in Tampa, Florida.
All right, and Gavin, prior to starting this protocol, would you mind telling everybody where you were at with your health?
Yeah, so I was in college when I found this protocol back at the beginning of this year. I was just, hanging out doing the college lifestyle, and the left side of my face started going numb. And so obviously that's not a good sign. I called the nurse's hotline at the college that I was at, and she was like, that's a sign of a stroke. You should go to the emergency room. And so I called my mom. I know she's on the call right now, and I was like, don't freak out. And she immediately started freaking out. But I went into the hospital, and my blood pressure was 230 over 114. And so that's like a, stroke level blood pressure beyond that. And they immediately got me in for a CT scan on my head and an EKG on my heart. And the doctor basically just diagnosed me with hypertension, and I left that night with a blood pressure prescription. And so I just knew something needed to change in my life and my lifestyle, for me to be able to not have to be on those medications for the rest of my life. But I came across somebody talking about insulin resistance on social media. And I just started to tone in on it. I was like, I'm dealing with the inflammation. I'm dealing with the fatigue. I'm dealing with the belly fat. And obviously, I got diagnosed with hypertension at 21 years old. And so I really started listening. And so I started the protocol February the 12th of this year. And I'm now down about 75 pounds. I'm down 4 pant sizes, 2 shirt sizes. And I got off my high blood pressure medication the second month on the system. I woke up and I kept checking my pressure. It was, normal, kind of low. I called the doctor. I was like, hey, I need to, come in, for a visit. And my blood pressure was normal. He was like, whatever you're doing, keep on doing it, and took me off the blood pressure medications. So it's just been a total game changer and lifesaver for me.
Gavin, question. I mean, I can't imagine what it's like to be 21 and to be having a stroke and be put on blood pressure medication. What were some of the emotions that you were
Yeah.
feeling when that happened?
Yeah, I just felt kind of like defeated, like why is it happening to me? I thought it was genetic. My grandparents have it, whatever. But then I started thinking about the lifestyle and, just that it could have been something deeper going on, and it was. And so now that I got to the root cause of the problem, my total perspective on everything has just changed.
If it's all right, Gavin, I have a photo that I recently found of you.
Yeah,
Can I share this? And I
for
realized that
sure.
you've made some progress even since this photo was taken. But I
Yes,
want everybody to see, okay? The reason why we started doing these calls is for people like Gavin. This is what it's all about. Is a stranger who found this little fasting and fiber protocol that we do, a 22-year-old just stud. I mean, this guy is, if he walks into a room and he just lights up the room. And here he was in the hospital having a stroke. And now he's totally headed in the right direction. He's off his blood pressure medications. And this has all been done just with some fasting and some fiber. And so, Gavin,
for
we're
sure.
so happy that you, I mean, number one, we're thrilled to have you be a part of this great community, brother. And thank you for being vulnerable and coming on here and talking to 500 plus perfect strangers about what you were dealing with. Just maybe in closing, is there anything that you would say? I mean, let's say somebody's here new for the first time. They're a little skeptical. They've never tried the protocol, or maybe they've tried lots and lots of things and nothing has worked. What would you
I
say
would
to
say
somebody skeptical?
Yeah, I would say I was very skeptical as well, but I was in college. I didn't, I wasn't really necessarily looking for anything to really get on, but I was like, this company believes in their product so much that they have a 90-day money back guarantee. I was like, I'll try it for 90 days. If it doesn't work, the worst thing that can happen is I get my money back, right? And then the last thing I'll say is like insulin resistance isn't just affecting our older generation. I was 21 years old in college. It's affecting younger and younger as we go on in time. And so I would say that's my last thing.
I love it, brother. Well, hey, we're so proud of you, and thanks for
Thank you,
being
Trent.
on the call. You're the man. We appreciate you
Yeah.
and Gavin Turfler, guys. So,
Thank you.
Gavin, great job, and he is absolutely right. Insulin resistance is affecting the elderly. It's affecting, people that are middle age, and it is now going for our kids, even our grandkids. I mean, I'm not a grandpa yet, but children, teenagers are insulin resistant. They're pre-diabetic. There's kids with fatty liver. How is this happening, right? So on this call tonight, we want to show you some of the science behind what is happening and why it is happening. And most importantly, talk about what to do about it. And to help me do that, I'm going to bring in one of my favorite doctors in the world. This is Dr. Tiffany Hendricks. Dr. Hendricks is in the great state of Alabama, and Dr. Hendricks is an expert on insulin resistance. She has pretty much dedicated her life as a medical doctor to helping people get off drugs whenever possible. Somebody that truly believes in minimum necessary medication, right? Now, Dr. Tiffany is here. I want to ask a quick favor to those of you that are on the live stream. Maybe you're here on the Zoom call in the chat. There's over 500 people here. I know we have many, many medical professionals on the call tonight. If you're a doctor, if you're a nurse, if you're a diabetes educator or a nutritionist or a dietitian, or if you're in the business of helping people with their health, would you please put medical, maybe an NP, for example, would you put medical in the chat? We want, I mean, almost like we honor our great servicemen and women, I want to honor all of the great medical professionals. Look at that, okay? Probably 30, 40, 50 people, I don't know, medical professionals, great doctors like Dr. Tiffany who see what we're doing and are the wind in our sails and are all about it. And so we love Dr. Tiffany, and Dr. Tiffany today is going to be talking about food and mood. Did you know that what you eat affects how you feel, what you think, what you crave? A lot of what we eat is actually downstream of what we ate earlier, right? And so, to help us with that, to talk about hormones, things like dopamine, serotonin, cortisol, we have the great Dr. Tiffany. Dr. Tiffany, I'm gonna remove my spotlight and let you have the floor.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Trent, for the warm introduction. I'm going to get this all set up and share my screen. And I am one, thanks for the love in the comments. Love you all back. I appreciate you all. For the people I don't know, so happy you're on this call because we're going to do a little spin. Because insulin resistance, just like Gavin just said, is not just for young people. It's not just for type 2 diabetes. It's not just for blood pressure. Our mood is so hugely affected by that. So, considering the time and where we are and how so many people struggle at this time, I thought this would be a great topic. So, a little bit about me. I am Dr. Tiffany Marie. My government name, like some people like to say, is Dr. Tiffany Hendricks. So I'm double board certified in family and lifestyle medicine and decided, you know what, I wanted to become a metabolic health coach too. And I got to do that with Insulin IQ. But after practicing for 20 years in private practice, urgent care, and then the last 3 years in virtual primary care across 48 states, I saw that too many people are struggling. And I was just given a prescription for side effects and drug interactions, and it just didn't fulfill me anymore. And I no longer want to be that provider. And so that's when my eyes got open to these alternative ways to actually go after the root causes of these issues. And that's what I learned with lifestyle medicine. And then, like many of you that are on this call, once I learned these things, I was telling everybody. I was on publications, social media, even some TV news media, because that's just how important this is to share and get this word out. Okay, so let's talk about mood. Now, your food may actually be hijacking your feelings. So I'm going to do a quick kind of mood check-in. And I know I got a couple people that I know the answer you probably going to give me, but how are you feeling right now? Would you say energized, meh, tired, anxious, overwhelmed? So since a lot of us have some secret juice, I'm sure it's going to be a lot of energized, but there's some people on here that actually have some of these other symptoms, okay? And that's what we're talking about. And during the holidays, we have a lot of people who are missing loved ones, a lot of people who have memories of people that have gone too soon for conditions that are around metabolic health, cancers, type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, strokes, right? And so many people are actually struggling now. And yeah, it brings some joy, but sometimes it brings some stress. You get the wrong food placed in front of you at your office. I mean, I was a doctor. They'd always bring us that whole tower of chocolate. And I was a doctor. I'm still a doctor, right? That whole tower of chocolate and cookies and cakes. And that's the stuff that was constantly thrown in my face, right? And so what if you have nostalgic eating problems? What if you're somebody who eats something because it reminds you of a good family time? You can see how that gets you in an awful cycle that not only affects your mental health, but also your physical health. So understanding this science is huge because that way you can take back control. I'm about empowering people. So as Trent was talking, I'm sure this kind of looks a little left field, right? Because insulin resistance, why do we care about our mood? But there's actually a huge link with that. With the Stanford medical study, it found that insulin resistance doubles the risk of major depressive order. That's insulin resistance, people. And then this study was 240,000 people. It was a meta-analysis, but it showed that elevated insulin is a marker for acute depression. Okay. And then on top of that, you have the insulin signaling that overlaps with mood regulation and neurogenesis pathways. That's with building new neural pathways. Okay, so insulin resistance isn't just about your waistline, just about being snatched. It's silently reshaping your brain chemistry, reward signaling, and emotional resilience. And so I'm going to talk about these neurotransmitters. Dopamine. So this is our reward chemical. The sugar creates intense spikes and is followed by crashes. Now, sugar is the only food that causes an increase in your dopamine, so much so that you can be addicted to it. Illicit substances cause an increase in dopamine. That's what makes us feel good. But sugar does this. Protein doesn't do it. How many people feel like they have to have another 20-ounce steak after they have a 20-ounce steak? Like no one ever. So no, this is from sugar. Carbohydrates break down into sugars. And then serotonin. Serotonin is our mood stabilizer. 90% of that is produced in our gut. And so that makes our digestive health huge for our mental wellness. And then GABA, this is a calming messenger and it helps reduce anxiety and stress. And for a lot of people, I like to talk to my high performing people because that's me. My people in these high positions or these busy moms and these people doing 2 or 3 jobs with 4 or 5 hats. Yes, stress is huge. And so having something that helps improve that is important. So when we talk about balancing sugars, it's important to understand why we need to do that because there's a sugar trap. And so let me say this. I mean, we have all those things in the middle of the grocery store, the chips, the cookies, the crackers, the cakes. I mean, with their slogans, you can't eat just. Once you pop it, you can't stop. I literally had a patient that I diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And the first thing she told me was, good luck if you think I'm going to stop eating my chips, my cookies, my crackers, my cakes. That's not going to happen. I'm not doing that. And at the time, I was thinking, good luck for me. I'm really trying to stop you from having a stroke or a heart attack here. But when I stopped and actually listened to what she was saying was, I'm addicted to this stuff. This is going to be hard for me to stop doing. And the reality is, so many people feel like they're addicted to this. And I think that's one thing we miss, and we overlook it and say, oh, poor discipline, poor willpower. No, some people actually feel addicted. And if you're somebody on this call and you can relate to that, type in sugar, type in me, because so many people do struggle. And I think we overlook it and discount it. So we're going to talk about it. And so I'm going to give this example. When you go to a restaurant, the first thing they put on your table is a basket of breadsticks, a basket of chips, right? Why you guys think they're giving you free food? I mean, really, why are they giving you free food? Clearly, there's a benefit they get from giving you free food. And those are free carbohydrates, right? So you're there at the restaurant with your friends, your wife, your boo, your kids, you're having a good time. So your dopamine's already kind of high anyway, because you're feeling good. Well, you stick your hand into that bread basket, which is a carbohydrate, right? A processed carbohydrate, no less, probably, chips. And it's going to shoot up your glucose because it's going to shoot up your sugar, right? Well, that's going to shoot up dopamine so high, so you're feeling great. Then you get your drink, your soda, your juice, and then if you're trying to be fancy, getting your alcohol, your wine, you're shooting up your sugar, thus your dopamine even more. Now insulin has to come in, and insulin has to come in and do something with all that glucose, and so that's going to cause a quick drop. So first you get your sugar hit, and your brain is like, oh my gosh, I'm all lit up. I'm loving this. Keep doing this. Then you get the crash. And now your brain is like, wait a minute, what did you do? I was having a good time. And it's asking you to get some more. So you may not realize it. You're talking to your friends, but now your hand is back in that bread basket. It's back in those chips without even thinking about it. You know you weren't even that hungry before you came, right? So you're getting this intense craving and you start the cycle again. And then not only that, you look at the menu and you're like, I think I'm going to order now this large meal, even though I wasn't really hungry, and maybe even dessert. That's how they get you, this sugar trap. So research shows that brain insulin resistance impairs reward signaling, increases depressive behaviors, and breaking this cycle is essential for lasting mood improvement. And so a quick way to kind of overcome this, which I like to do with my people. I consider myself a health consultant and trying to give people tips and tools to make life easier, is changing the order, okay? So eating this first and making that change as opposed to sticking your hand in that bread basket or chips. If you're doing fiber or vegetables first, you're going to have a much different outcome. Most of us, when we do those bread baskets and chips, by the end of the night, we feel like the Goodyear blimp. We feel all poofy, because we had all those carbohydrates in there and didn't really even mean to eat them because our brain was leading the charge on that. But if you do a salad first or you do side veggies first, now most people don't want to do that because you're going to look like a weirdo with all your friends and your family. And so that's why the whole fiber blend that we like to use comes into play. Is very helpful. But getting that fiber first, that dampens that glucose response. So then it's going to dampen that dopamine response. So you don't get that crazy hit. Then doing your protein and healthy fats, because that stabilizes the blood sugar. One, because protein doesn't break down into much glucose, not much, some. And then your healthy fats, barely any. So you're not going to get that crazy spike in crash business. And so doing that order, doing your carbohydrates last, one, you're probably going to eat less of them because you did all that first. It's going to end up blunting that dopamine response by 70%. And so when we talk about the gut, why does that matter? We're calling the gut the second brain now. So our microbiome has trains of bacteria in it. And what happens is those trains of bacteria produce like 90% of your serotonin. That's huge. So serotonin is our mood chemical, like I was showing you earlier. That plays a huge role in depression and anxiety. In fact, we take medications to keep the levels of serotonin in your bloodstream higher. But how about you just eat to where you can produce more, or you feed your bacteria to where it works more appropriately, okay? And so the bacteria in our gut actually communicates with our brain in the gut-brain axis, which is huge. That's why this is important. Now, the microbiome trains the bacteria. When you eat the wrong things, you eat processed foods, you don't sleep well, you don't manage your stress well, you can actually start having wrong things in your gut microbiome, like yeast or bad bacteria. And over time, what that does is it starts to mess up the lining of your gut. Now you start to have permeability or leaky gut. And so that allows things to slip out. And you get inflammatory compounds, of course, slipping out. And it can trigger anxiety, depression, trigger IBS. It can trigger abdominal pain. It can trigger that whole anxiety gut, people like to say. So your mental wellness is hugely affected by your gut. So a healthy gut definitely stabilizes the moods, and you get better stress response and improved cognitive function. So I talk about these lifestyle levers that transform your mood and thus your mental health, right? So strategic fasting, which Trent touched on this too, is you want to do this because it improves insulin sensitivity. And we have a Nobel laureate who really got looked into this science and found out about autophagy, to where if you fast past 16, 17 hours, your cells start to heal themselves. So you have brain cleanup time. You have full cell cleanup time, but we're talking about mood and the brain right now, right? So that's huge. And then movement. The reason why this is important, because when you actually increase the amount of muscles you have, your muscle cells have more insulin receptors. So that way insulin can bind to those receptors and get out the bloodstream to stop causing havoc, to stop causing the high blood pressure, stop causing the problem with the triglycerides, stop causing eventually the problem with the type 2 diabetes. And also the exercise helps with boosting endorphins. So helping us feel good. That's why so many people, I know I got gym rats on this call, so many people are at the gym and they love it. So much so they kind of get addicted to going to the gym for the same reason, for feeling good with that, okay? And then gut-friendly foods, fermented foods, fiber, polyphenols, they feed those beneficial bacteria that we need working appropriately, because when our gut is working well, it pulls out the toxins, it pulls out the pathogens that aren't supposed to be there, and it makes sure we get the nutrients we need. And then insulin-focused meals. So that kind of goes back to the order some, but what you're looking at is you're trying to decrease the amount of carbohydrates. So you're looking for foods that don't cause you to have a high glycemic spike. And you can really look this up on the University of Sydney's website, glycemic index, and actually see that. Well, they have a link for the glycemic index there too. And so that way you can choose which foods have lower glycemic spikes, so that way you don't kick up the dopamine and you don't kick up insulin. Now, of course, there are natural mood boosters that actually work. There's actual natural mood boosters that you don't have to eat or drink. Really, you exercise, you manage your sleep, you manage your stress, you hang around with positive people. I mean, those are things right there. You have peer support, which is another great thing about what we do. But mate, this contains the theobromine. That is that's that fun feeling part of chocolate. When you eat it and you feel like, oh, this is the best thing ever, that's the theobromine, okay? You have the chlorogenic acid that has the sustained energy and mood elevation without the crash. Polyphenols, which are it's what gives our fruits and vegetables their vibrant color, but powerful plant compounds, but it reduces inflammation. So it supports healthy neurotransmitter production. We want healthy production of dopamine, so we aren't relying on sugar to feel good, right? So we want to produce that healthily. We want to produce healthy serotonin. We want to produce healthy GABA. We do. Now, natural caffeine is also part of the mate, which boosts energy and mental alertness. Who doesn't need that? I need that all the time. And the fiber part of this. So we talked about gut health a lot. This slows the glucose absorption by up to 40%. This particular one we like to use, and it protects against mood disrupting blood sugar spikes. That whole a spike and then crash and spike and then crash, that whole hangry. I used to be one of those people that if it'd been too long since I ate, you didn't want to mess with me. I was going to be nasty. I was going to be mean. So about when you start leveling your blood sugars, that goes away. You don't have those types of mood instability. Then you have niacin that also supports energy production at the cellular level. And the whole thing about fiber is building your healthy microbiome, because that talks to our brain. It helps us make these neurotransmitters. It is huge. So when we're looking for ways to manage this, I like this little toolkit, which kind of goes over everything I was just saying. You start your meals with fiber, then protein, and that little simple change can improve the glucose spikes by 70%. And then you support your gut daily. That's with fermented foods. That can be kefir, that can be kimchi. Soluble fiber even ferments in your gut. That's another good great thing about the fiber we like. It has insoluble and soluble fiber. So we get both the best of both worlds with that. And then the polyphenol rich options, time restricted eating windows. And I like to meet people where they are with this. So some people are like, oh my gosh, you said fasting. I'm already done with this conversation. I am jumping off this call. They've already left because they heard the fasting and it freaked them out. But the reality is, if your last meal was at 8 o'clock at night and your first meal was at 8 o'clock in the morning, that's 12 hours fasting. And so some people, I have them start with 3 meals and just no snacking, because you have to meet people where they are if you want to see them have success. And then try and increase to that 16 to 17 hours of fasting so you can tap into autophagy when you get that cellular repair. Okay. And then moving your body consistently. Every 20 minutes of walking after meals dramatically improves your glucose metabolism. But you know what helps your brain health? It's not just getting up and doing the same activity every day, because our brain is constantly learning and wants to make new neural connections. Sometimes it's doing something challenging, doing something different. So I like to meet people where they are. If you are not working out at all, then the first thing is just get up and walk around the house. And if you are doing something consistently, then change it up, challenge yourself. That makes our brain want to grow and improve. And then choose functional support, like the tools we like to use. That's the Unimate, the balance, and it amplifies all these efforts naturally. So small intentional choices create profound shifts. Your mood isn't at the mercy of circumstance. It's shaped by the daily rituals you choose. And so bottom line, your body is brilliant. You just need the right tools to take back control of your health and mental health now. So using the natural tools that Trent was alluding to, is going to go into more detail, will make all the difference. So get back to the person who referred you and start today. My whole goal is less prescriptions, more living. And I do this because I want to help people need less meds.
Oh my gosh.
Thanks.
I love that, Dr. Tiffany. I want to say something real fast before you go in. And if we have time, maybe for some Q&A at the end, I don't know how much time we'll have, but maybe we'll bring Dr. Tiffany back if she's willing. If I were to reach out to most medical doctors, especially a double board certified medical doctor, and say, hey, I would like to ask you to come onto a call tonight and teach a group of strangers how to stay out of the ER, get off medications, and avoid doctors, they would probably say either I'm not interested, or they would say, how much are you going to pay me?
Mhm.
This doctor
Yeah.
did not say that. She said, absolutely, I'd love to. This is a good woman and a good doctor. And we have been so thoroughly educated tonight. Thank you, Dr. Tiffany. We really appreciate you and
Thank you.
cannot thank you enough. Drop your handles in the chat, Dr. Tiffany, if people want to follow you. In fact, if I was looking for a medical doctor who was all about natural, who was all about minimum necessary medication, who was all about doing things different. This is the type of doctor I'd be looking for. And so if you need somebody to look over your labs, or maybe you don't have labs, maybe you don't know where you're at, right? This would be a great person to reach out to. So thank you so much, Dr. Tiffany. We have another guest that I want to bring on here shortly, and I'm going to give you just about the most beautiful sight you've ever seen in your life tonight, here in a moment later on the call. Before I do that, I just want to validate quickly what Dr. Tiffany Hendricks just shared. The food and mood connection, I am like a perfect example of that. My whole life, I have these fleeting moments where I feel so strong. I'm going to the gym today, baby. I'm eating clean today. I'm never going to eat another, cheeseburger again, right? I'm healthy from now on. I'm going to be perfect from now on, right? And that moment lasts sometimes a day, maybe sometimes a few days, and then the weakness sets in. My willpower starts to fade, and I break down. That's really the story of my whole metabolic life up until about the last 3 years, until I broke that cycle forever. And the food I was eating, how I was eating it, was a big part in that. Okay. Now, it is no secret that the whole world is getting sick. Why are we getting sick? Tiffany was right on the money. Dr. Tiffany was right on the money. Okay. So for those of you that are very visual, I want to just give you a couple of visuals here to help this click for you. Okay. If you struggle with weight control, If you have been struggling, if you're a pre-diabetic, if you're a type 2 diabetic, if you have high blood pressure, if you have skin problems, if you have weight control problems, if you're a girl with PCOS, if you have the mental health problems that Dr. Tiffany talked about, if you're constantly hungry, if you have that sweet tooth that she talked about, right? Maybe you're struggling with psoriasis like my dad, or acne, or inability to lose weight, right? If you have any of these problems, there is a reason why. And it's not you. This is not an individual problem. You're not the only kid failing this class. The whole world is failing this class. 93% of American adults have metabolic damage. They have problems, right? Why? Well, everybody in the world is familiar with white rice, right? But what most people don't know is that this over here is actually what wild rice looks like in nature. And what food makers have been doing for the last 50 plus years now is they will take the wild rice, the original plant, and they will remove the bran. So they will take the bran, and the bran is the actual fiber part of the product. Now, I'm not talking about the husk or the kernel. We don't eat that part. The bran, this is very edible. It's very important. Okay, that's the fiber part of the plant. This is the cake, the sugar part of the plant. We only eat the cake. Food makers take things like wheat, they take out all the good stuff, and they make processed food like this, right? Every sugar, every carbohydrate in nature comes packaged in fiber. This apple is a lot of sugar and water, and it has been put in a package of fiber. So it has this fiber package. When you remove the fiber package, you're left with sugar water, right? The entire modern diet is sugar water. It's cake. This is sugar water or cake. This is sugar water or cake. You follow me? Okay. Every sugar has to come with fiber or it will be very detrimental to health, okay? When God made sugar itself, it came packaged in fiber. And that is true of every carb, right? When you start taking fiber out of the food supply at a, grand level, like the food companies have done, right? Here's an article from even the CDC. They know what's happening. The problem is the people don't know what's happening. Health benefits of fiber. What happens when you take the bran off the rice? You take the fiber out of the bread. You take the fiber out of the apple, right? Well, what are the health benefits of fiber? If you have diabetes or prediabetes, fiber is your friend because it helps with blood sugar control and weight management. It can also lower your risk of heart disease and some cancer. Well, that's interesting. What's the number one killer in the world? Heart disease. What's the number two killer in the world? Cancer. So why are we taking fiber out of everything? Fiber is specifically what helps you control your blood sugar. It controls your blood sugar and insulin levels, to Tiffany's point. It also protects your heart. Fiber prevents your body from taking in some fat and cholesterol, lowering your triglycerides and cholesterol levels. Fiber is what helps you maintain your digestive health. It improves your gut health. It helps you feel full. It keeps you feeling full and helps with weight management. Aha! Maybe this is why the food companies don't want fiber in the food. Because when they take the fiber out, like Tiffany said with the breadsticks and the free tortilla chips at dinner, right? Give you a processed food and you'll actually eat and order more food. When they've taken fiber out, we have ended up with a bunch of health problems. And this is where we are globally today. 1/3 of Americans are now either a type 2 diabetic or a pre-diabetic. 2/3 are obese or overweight. Heart disease, the number one killer in the world. 1 out of 5 have irritable bowel syndrome. And guess what, baby? When you got irritable bowel syndrome, you're going to have mental health problems like anxiety and depression, right? Because of the gut-brain connection that Tiffany talked about. So what we're doing with this protocol and why what you're about to hear is true is because we are bringing the fiber back. Taking the fiber out got us sick. Bringing the fiber back can help many people get unsick, okay? The other thing that we're doing is we're taking control of insulin. Most people eat too often. They never take a break from food. It is a meal every few hours or a snack, right? When you eat like that, you bathe your body in insulin. And too much insulin for too long makes us insulin resistant. And this leads to obesity and all these other problems that we're talking about, right? So, what we're doing on this protocol, it really isn't very complicated. We are taking control of fasting and we're taking control of fiber. So what we're doing is we're essentially forcing our blood sugar to go down. We're forcing our blood sugar, oops, I'm skipping all over the place here. We're forcing our blood sugar to go down by taking a break from food, forcing our insulin down, right? And then we're bringing a little bit of fiber into the diet, okay? Now, I want to explain this protocol. I want to show all the new people exactly what we're doing to make this super duper easy. Oops, I've got to get my slides right. One second, folks. My goodness. So let's look at this. And then I've got a guest, and then I want to show you something that's just beautiful. Okay, so um, what we're doing on this protocol, what most of us are doing on this protocol, is we are taking a nice break from food on a daily basis. Okay, now you could call that intermittent fasting. As Tiffany said, we will meet you where you are. This is nothing extreme. Don't worry about that. Okay, taking a brief break from food. In fact, many of us, if this is breakfast and this is lunch and this is dinner, many of us are simply skipping breakfast. And when you skip breakfast, you force the insulin levels down. This helps you become more insulin sensitive. And when insulin is down, the body is amazing at burning fat for fuel. You're literally eating your body fat, your love handles for breakfast. All right. Now, when we're fasting, we are not starving. We're just switching fuel sources. Instead of burning food for fuel, we're burning body fat for fuel, right? So our body is still getting calories. We're not starving. We're still getting calories. We're getting those calories from fat, right? And a lot of people will sip water. Some people will do, herbal tea or things during the fast. They'll sip that to help them not feel deprived. But once their body starts to really get good at burning fat, they actually don't feel hungry. We don't feel hungry because we're getting those calories from fat, right? Now, before meals, as Tiffany said, if you can eat your meals in the proper order, prioritizing the right types of plant fiber before your meals, like let's say you could have a lush garden salad before every meal, you would eliminate the blood sugar and insulin spike. You'd take control of your insulin. And this would allow you to burn more fat between meals, control your blood sugar, and dramatically change the direction of your health. And I'm going to give you a lot of proof on that in just a moment. Okay. So, what we have found is that if fasting is hard for you, if dietary discipline is hard for you, if it's not realistic for you to have a big lush garden salad in your back pocket 24/7 that you can whip out before your meals, what if there was an easier way, right? And we started talking about this protocol and doing these calls because we wanted to spread awareness about something out there that nobody else is talking about, okay? We have a solution to the problem of insulin resistance and to many of the associated problems, okay? This is something that nobody can copy. It was originally developed by the Rexall company. It's been studied now by the Cleveland Clinic, the University of Sydney in Australia. There are current studies going on at BYU right now that's been studied, 20 plus clinical studies, okay? It is safe, it is natural. What we're about to show you does not have any drugs in it, and it is guaranteed to work. Anybody that uses it properly and is consistent for 90 days, you will be able to see the proof, and you can do a blood test with your doctor if you want. It will be measurable, all right? This is what it is. There are two parts to the protocol. Part one is something you sip whenever you're not eating. So whenever you're not eating, in fact, I have some right here. I've been sipping it. In between meals and during that fast, you can sip the Unimate. And when you sip the Unimate, it makes me forget about food, okay? It is a natural insulin sensitizer. It does amazing things for the body, but I can fast forever on the Unimate. So it takes all the food noise away. If you're drinking the Unimate and you love it, would you put mate in the chat. All right. I want you to put mate if you love this stuff. In fact, maybe put a note or two about what you love about the mate. Why do you like sipping the mate? And I know many of you have had amazing results on this, right? Number two, right before my meals, I'll have a packet of fiber. This is a blend of the best plant fibers in the world that work synergistically with each other to create something that I believe is going to change healthcare eventually, right? This often works as well as, and sometimes even better than statin drugs for cholesterol, but with no drugs. It often works as well as, and sometimes better than metformin for blood sugar control, but no drugs in it, okay? So in a typical day, you've got breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You skip the breakfast, you sip the Unimate during that fast, right? And then I'll have a balance before at least my largest meal each day. Sometimes I'll even do an extra balance before my other meal. It is that simple. And wait until you see what happens when you stick with it for about 2 or 3 months, when you're consistent, okay? Now, in full disclosure, this is a little bit expensive online. If you go and try to order it, it is $235 for a 1 month supply. Now, I believe it is well worth that. I buy this every single month, but did you know that if you get it through a discount link, which we will provide you, okay, you can get it for $159. So it's actually $159 a month, and you lock in that pricing forever. This makes it roughly $5 per day. So it's about $5 per day, right, for a 1 month supply. But the good news is you're going to save that skipping breakfast and snacks by sipping the Unimate. So you take the money you save skipping a meal, and that covers the cost of the protocol. And so as soon, whenever you order this product, it will give you a discounted price, and you'll have a discounted link that you can share with others so that they can get the discounted price. It's that simple. It's really, really cool. Okay. Now, let's say you're skeptical. Oh, I didn't mean to go there just yet. Let's say that you're skeptical. You can actually, and I am the world's biggest skeptic on this kind of stuff, okay? And I'm totally lost right now. Let me just find this. Okay, if you're skeptical, you can literally go to your doctor and say, "Doctor, I heard about this stuff. I'm a little leery of it." Your doctor will look it up in something called the PDR, okay? This is the physician's desk reference, and your doctor will be able to see. Your doctor's going to say, "Well, I've never heard of it, but reading this looks really good. Yeah, maybe you could try that. In fact, let me know how that goes. I'm really curious," right? It's in the PDR. It is now HSA qualified. It is FSA qualified. This is going to be disruptive. We are spreading awareness about this because it's going to change the world. Now, I told you I was going to bring in another guest and give you lots of proof and show you a really, really beautiful site. And we better get to that so that Trent doesn't overtalk here, okay? So I want to bring in one more quick story before I give you this beautiful site. This is Andrea Martin. And Andrea Martin, you are somebody that has been following this protocol now for a little while. Would you mind just telling everybody, who are you, where are you from, and where were you at with your health prior to starting this protocol?